Cool. We're live, man. Thanks for joining me, John.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate being here. I've listened to several of your episodes and love the idea. So
Oh, thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride, man. But I wanna I was really interested to meet with you because you have two big. I mean, you're the founder of two big companies that I think are pretty interesting. Green Grasp, which is like a financial literacy app, right?
Right.
And Visionary. Oh, geez,
Literary.
what?
Visionary literary. Yeah.
That's right. Visionary Literary. I was like, oh, dude, I'm missing something. And that's a nonfiction publishing company, like book publishing company.
Correct. So ghostwriting and publishing.
Oh, no way. That's
Yeah.
insane. So there's two of them. I always just like to start one at a time. So tell me about Green Grasp and financial literacy and how that all came about. Take me back to the beginning.
So in 2017, I left a job that was paying me well to go on this entrepreneurial journey. And in January of 2018, I tried to start a handyman company. January 2018, the truck was repossessed. I profited $600 in a matter of 6 months. I was, just going back, like come from middle-class family, college graduate, but I've never learned anything about finance. It was embarrassing. I was, married with kids, and my kids are watching me as the truck's going away, and just wanted to kind of climb under a rock. So I vowed that that's not going to happen again over the next, 18 months. It was just constant reading, researching, learning. And the more that I would speak with friends and family members, the basics of financial literacy were just beyond their comprehension. So it just came to me in about 2019 that I was on Duolingo on my phone, doing that thing where, every 2 weeks I say I want to learn a new language, and then it goes 2 months. But I just thought, like, why can't there be something like this for the basics of financial literacy? And then so that journey began, several different concepts, fundraising, things of that nature. And we're finally within the next few weeks ready to release like our first real, we'll say non-beta version of the app, which I'm really excited about. So it's got that Duolingo feel to it.
Cool.
Yeah. And so we're really excited. It's just, there's a wealth gap, obviously, in the US. Right. We all know this. But a client that I'd written for, said that there's not really a wealth gap. It's a knowledge gap. And I love that. So we want to try to close that knowledge gap.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with that at all. You know what I mean? Because it is about, it is about what you know, especially when it comes to money and like accounting and just personal stuff. Because here's my big problem with like finance gurus.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
And that is they try to blur the line between like personal finance and business finance, right? And those are pretty different, like significantly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so people get caught up in like trying to run their personal finances like a business, and that doesn't always work sometimes. Like you got to start with like basics. So I'm curious for you, like what basic building blocks do you teach in financial literacy?
So a lot of it's just terminology, right? Yeah. So like you said, that their business and finance and personal finance they tie in together at some points. Like for me, having a balance sheet, right? Like when I started my first business, my handyman business, I worked for a guy in college who drove around in a truck and did jobs. Like I didn't have a balance sheet. I figured if I go do this job, I'll collect some money and everything will work out. Obviously it didn't. But just simple things, simple terms, terminology. But like you said too, there are a lot of personal finance gurus, and we put air quotes in there, but they speak to people, Twitter and Instagram, like they speak as if they're speaking to someone that's on their knowledge level. Mm-hmm. Right. And I want to take a step back. Like I said, I'm college educated, right? And my friends are, and these are people that had never heard of some of the terms. So I just kind of want to take a step back and start from the basics, and allow the user to like work their way up to that level of knowledge to where they feel like, okay, this isn't all foreign to me.
Yeah. So when does that app release?
So I've been speaking with my developer weekly. It was supposed to be the last week of May.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, we're hitting some speed bumps. It's a rocky road, but I personally feel like it's all worth it because in the end,
Yeah.
this has to be something that is not only educational, but it's also engaging. Right? Like I
Yeah.
want people to. I mean, the core principle is learn finance in 3 minutes a day. Right? Same thing as
That's cool.
Duolingo. Like, yeah, it's short, right? Short little lessons. We're all busy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, a short little quiz each day and, you take a little bit out of it. So that's the concept.
That's pretty sweet. And
Mhm.
I imagine that that would help a ton of people. I mean, it's just one of those things like, yeah, so I got my bachelor's degree in accounting because I just wanted to learn business. And then I was doing my research and, accounting was like the business degree that I thought I could get that
Right.
would help me out. But yeah, and so coming from like that background and being in like I worked very briefly like in an accounting firm. And I wasn't even really on their payroll. I just learned a lot from them and was able to work with them and do taxes and
Right.
bookkeeping with them and stuff like that. But I learned a lot just like, yeah, it's so frustrating to watch people. They're like, well, I learned it from this guy on YouTube. And I'm like, you got to be real careful. There's a lot of good people on YouTube. YouTube got me through my college. So I'll get that out there
Right.
first. But
Oh,
there's
great.
also a lot of bad people on YouTube too,
Right.
you know? And that's crazy, man. That's really cool though. I feel like that product will help a lot of people and I hope we can push that out. So which came first, Green Grasp or Visionary Literary?
So Visionary Literary used to
Okay.
be just me ghostwriting kind of under my own name. So
Oh,
for anyone who may be unfamiliar with the process of ghostwriting, it's basically I am paid by, let's say, Dalton wants to write a book, and Dalton pays me to write the book, and then Dalton's name goes on the book, right? So
mhm,
I take your voice and the concepts that you give me, and I create a book out of it, and then it's yours, right? So a lot of
mhm.
business people who are busy, who want to branch into things like public speaking or having being a keynote at a conference, these type of things are they're kind of prime clients for having that book written, sharing what they have learned in their journey so that they can save aspiring entrepreneurs or people in their position to prevent them from making those mistakes, those common mistakes.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what's funny? I took a power writing class. It was mainly geared towards like emailing or like social media, like copywriting, like viral
Right.
writing and stuff like that. But I was talking with the instructor and he mentioned that a book was like a great way for like credibility.
Yeah. Yeah. Big time.
Yeah. And you mentioned that people who want to get into these like keynote speaking or public speaking, like a book really propels you that into that field.
It does. It helps. Again, it's that credibility factor, right? It's people are still sort of under the impression that like if you so self-publishing is much bigger now than it used to be, right? So
Right.
but readers are still under the impression sort of that if you have a book published, you know something, right? It's not and I don't want to bash like fiction self-publishing, right? But a lot of
Sure.
people look at fiction self-publishing as okay, John just decided to write a book one day. He didn't edit it. He doesn't care. He just threw it up on there. The cover is going to be garbage. You know what I mean? Like all the
Yeah.
negatives just sort of avalanche down. And with nonfiction, I feel like it's a bit different.
Uh-huh.
So there's just more, like you said, that credibility factor and knowing and your biography, what's on that back cover copy, saying what you've learned and what you're going to help with, is
Yeah, and given like your bio, like almost your like
resume.
2-second resume.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. So how long have you been doing copy like or ghostwriting?
So I've been writing for 13 years, ghostwriting for about 6.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's been, so that's why
That's insane.
going back, I trailed off a little bit when you asked me the previous question of which one came first. But it was me just ghostwriting kind of under my own name, my own LLC. And then work kept piling up, which is a good thing. And then I just decided to start Visionary Literary to not necessarily step back, from ghostwriting, but to bring on other writers, editors, create more of a company out of it.
Yeah, that's great, dude.
Mhm.
And so what made you want to take the step into like ghostwriting? Was it just to help those other authors, or because I feel like even writing just with yourself is a great skill and a great way to just make money, if you can, get a good writing thing going on, do a good newsletter, something like that. What made you go into ghostwriting?
So money, right? So again,
Yeah,
I was,
yeah.
yeah,
All I gotta say is, though, I know those guys wanting to get into public speaking, they'll pay quite a bit of money if they don't
they
have to do
will.
the work,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
They'll
They
do it.
have it. They have it. So, and
Yeah,
again,
man.
it's a good for them. It's a great investment, right? So
Right.
for someone like me, when I first got into ghostwriting, I was coming from fiction writing, which was me nights and weekends kind of churning away at the keyboard and maybe selling a few hundred copies of a book, right?
Mhm.
So to me, the idea of getting several $1,000s to write a book was like I'm throwing cash on the bed and I'm rolling around on it,
Right,
Um,
dude.
but for them, a few $1,000s is a really good investment, because for experienced and smart and successful people, again, it's all about the ROI. It's all about the investment, right? For them,
Mhm.
it's easier to pay someone to write and to quickly turn things around than it is for them to take time out of their busy schedule and have to learn to write,
Yeah,
trial and error. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
it's a good combination. And for me too, I have learned so much about entrepreneurship, about the journey, about the struggles, um, just from these people that have gone through them all. Right. So for me, it's been invaluable as an entrepreneur, to work with some of these amazing people.
Yeah, because I'm sure it's a pretty like intensive process to do ghostwriting for somebody,
It is.
because they want to get the message out there right. I'm sure there's a lot of rewriting, and I've worked with a couple writers, like, and I've interviewed a few, and I've interviewed quite a few authors, but it's just always fun to like hear their journey, and like, yeah, and that's probably one of the hardest parts is like, I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, how like writing was one of the skills that I really wish I would have learned earlier in life. Like, because I just thought writing, like, you go to English class, when you're in high school or something,
Right.
and it's like creative writing and fiction. And that stuff is beautiful. Like, don't get me wrong, that's art.
Yeah.
But it wasn't for me. Like, I can't do that. I'm not.
Right.
But what I did need to learn was how to, like, because I'm in sales, and what I did need to learn was how to like communicate with somebody in writing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like business
Copywriting.
writing. Yeah, copywriting.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, dude, I missed that. And so, yeah, now I'm paying for it. Literally and figuratively, I'm paying for it. To learn how to do it.
Well, see, yeah, you're better than I am, though, because for all the copywriting that I can do, that sales knack that you have, that person to person, face to face communication thing that you are, great at. I was listening to some of your other podcasts, and you're talking about books that you've read and just your journey. And I am, see, I'm not there. I'm a good copywriter, I feel,
Yeah.
but when it comes to that face-to-face conversation, I still need to read a few books.
Well, yeah, and that was the crazy thing that I learned, like, because sales is just keeps evolving, right? And what I learned was face-to-face conversations are great. So there's like three types of selling. There's that face-to-face sales.
Mhm.
There's virtual selling, which happens like, over social and things like that. And virtual selling kind of takes into account like this digital selling. So like, how do you write a cold email that people will open? Like, what's a good headline? Like, how do you get people to actually, hear what you have to say in writing? Because nobody reads anything on the internet. They just skim it.
Right. Right.
Or they just like glance over it, right?
Right.
Like, so how do you get somebody to do that? And that was like, dang, I didn't learn that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I got to learn that, dude. And that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
So you start writing, I mean, and then you open up, you mentioned you open up this handyman business.
Yeah.
What made you go from like copy? Was that just something you wanted to try, the handyman business, or?
Well, so my writing was always a side gig up until recently, about a year or two ago.
Okay.
It was always a side gig, something I did at night and on weekends because I liked it.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get enough steady work to make it a full-time thing. I have a wife and kids, and
yeah, I get that.
My oldest one's a daughter, so it's a little more deeper in the pockets, if you know.
I do. My first child's a daughter as well.
Yeah.
I get it.
Uh-huh. But yeah, my first gig was actually, it was more of a tech thing, like medical software.
Okay.
But it was 100% travel. As my kids got older, it was the last kind of gig, I guess, that I was on was Monday through Friday, flying out of town. And every Sunday night, my kids would cry and say, please don't go. So that was, I mean, for as bad as the turnout was with that handyman company, I mean, I'm blessed and I'm glad that I went that route so that I'm not, disappointing my kids, my family, for all the financial hardships that were there. I was still here with my kids. I didn't have to watch them cry.
Yeah.
Even though they cried when I couldn't really take them out for dinner or ice cream. It wasn't the same kind of,
it was, yeah, that's different.
Cry. Yeah.
I get that. I had a job where I worked, we worked at Honda. We worked for Honda, and that was really labor intensive, gone a lot job. Yeah. And so it's good tough. Though. Yeah, it's tough, but it's good. Like when you switch, because you can be like, you realize like what you can put up with and what you can't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can put up with the cries of not going to ice cream,
right.
I can't put up with the cries of like, I'm still at work. I can't leave. You know what I mean? Right. And I don't know when I can, and I don't know when I'm coming home kind of thing.
And especially now, like you have 2 kids, right?
2 kids. Yeah. 2 kids.
Right. And as you're doing you built freedom for yourself in your life, right? Like sporting events in the afternoon or take the kids to school. Like these are some of, and again, I go back to all these entrepreneurs that I work with. Like that's one of the main reasons that they get into it is it's not for like, I want to make $1 million a year. It's just, I want that freedom. I want to be able to have that freedom to take off for an afternoon and take my kids to the park, or, maybe swap out some Thursday afternoon hours for a Saturday morning. It's that freedom and kind of going back to Green Grasp as well, the financial education, financial freedom.
Yeah.
It's not really about getting rich. It's just about having that mindset where like, I am free to do what I want without worrying about bills.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And it's nice because then you can like really create something beautiful. So like you can create your financial literacy app. You can create, a ghostwriting company, which by the way, I just got to go back to that because that's such a good idea, man. Especially, yeah, it's a good idea, dude.
I love it.
It's great. You get to meet so many people. I wrote this on Twitter the other day, and I was talking to. I did a podcast with one of my really, really good friends here in Salt Lake. We went down to the radio station and recorded one, and we were talking about like creating spaces where like entrepreneurs and people who you want to learn from. Want to be close, like want to join in, and you can be close to them through the spaces that you create. So like, hey, you don't want to learn how to write a book. Totally get that.
Right.
Writing isn't really for everybody. And you can practice it for 5 years and really still not get that good at it if it's not, you know what I mean? If it doesn't click,
Right.
So why didn't you just give it to me and you just tell me all your stories and I'll ask you all the questions.
Right.
And I get to write the book that I don't have to, and learn everything and some behind the scenes stuff, and I don't have to pay for it.
It's literally the best. I mean, I went between high school and 5 years of college because that's to get my bachelor's. I was a super senior, but between all those years of schooling and writing, my first 6 months of ghostwriting, I learned so much more in those first 6 months of ghostwriting, and then the reading spiral that it takes you on, just learning everything and. To go back and mention, you said that you could write for 5 years and still not be great at it. I've been writing since I was 21, so 15 years now. I've been writing.
Okay.
I just started reading Shoe Dog, the Phil Knight memoir.
Oh yes, the Nike. Yeah. Nike.
Oh my God. Yeah. I feel like I need 15 more years of writing to catch up to the skill of the ghostwriter who wrote that.
Right, dude.
Such a well-written, well-told story.
Yeah, you know what's crazy is I actually got in. I wanted to start writing just for me. After I read a really good book like that, I was like, "Holy
Yeah.
crap, dude! How do you
Yeah.
write this?" And
Writing.
yeah, it is. And it's cool just to see someone like your favorite authors and what they can do with it. But yeah, but for sure, like Phil Knight and whoever they worked, there was more than one person on that book for sure because it's
Oh
a
yeah.
great book.
Yeah. Yeah. But and plus, Phil Knight, for, he paid his dues. He did his time. He's not going to learn
Oh yeah, why would you?
how
Yeah,
to,
who cares?
right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So
write it for me.
he hired, yeah, he hired a
I don't
ghostwriter.
know. Hey, look, dude, I don't knock. That's the thing is like, I don't know why a couple of years ago, I think it was like, I think it was just had spun off of like some rap stuff, like some music stuff, but like ghostwriting wasn't like ghostwriting was getting like a bad name. And I'm
Right.
like, but like, dude, these guys are artists.
Yeah.
Like you give them something and they create something beautiful for it. And then you have a perfect work. You got something that's great. That you didn't have to, that you kind of like you got right there. You know what I mean? And you let somebody
Right.
do it who loves it. And I just feel like everybody wins. I don't feel like it's that big of a deal.
I
I just
agree
feel like
too.
everybody
Right. And
wins.
yeah, in the music industry too, that it's not, so all the people that get bad rap for hiring ghostwriters for their music lyrics, right? Like
Sure.
it's not like a nobody is,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like they
Yeah.
started at the bottom, right? They
Yeah.
created their own lyrics. They know. So it's not like,
Yeah.
you know what I
Now
mean? It's not
yeah.
like they're a rookie that's just coming in and collecting these checks based on no talent. Like they
Yeah,
showed the
exactly.
talent. Yeah, they had the talent.
Yeah.
And
And you just
it's,
collaborate, dude. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. I like that.
Mhm.
And so on your end, when you see these people get their books written by you and your team,
Mhm.
what's the outcome of these books?
Just to help with that credibility factor, right? Like
Yeah,
grow your
yeah,
audience, get credibility, and shit. It depends on the client, right? So,
sure.
like I said, some of them want to branch out. Their role as CEO or founder or owner is kind of giving them, their business is growing. They have more free time. They want
Yeah,
to actually really just help, right? Some people will
right,
pay the money just to say, I just want to help the people, somebody who was in my shoes 10 years ago, to avoid the mistakes. That's pretty
right.
common. But and again, it all depends on what the author wants. But for the
Do you,
most part, it's just that outcome of like, I did it and here it is. It's presented.
yeah, in a good way. Because I feel like here's the other thing with some of these with books especially. Like I don't know, when I read a book, I'm like, I really like that author, I'll go grab his other stuff.
Right.
And sometimes I will and sometimes I won't. It just depends on. But one of the big things I look for is this idea that, or like you really get one shot. You really
Right.
get, when you write a book, you really get like, you get that first page, man.
Yeah. Yeah. The first
You get
page
the title. Like that's
is,
just the world we live in. Like, don't judge a book by its cover. I think it might be a little outdated because I do,
yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
Like I
Well,
do.
maybe when back before Amazon, right?
Yeah.
When you had a bookshelf when you were looking and you just grab one. But Amazon, I mean, there are what, 1 million books published each year. So
Yeah.
you could spend just as much time browsing books as you can reading books.
Well, and my thing is like, I guess I don't judge it by its cover, but I judge it by the headline. I judge it by the title for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Titles,
I judge it by the
especially in
title for sure.
nonfiction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nonfiction, the title is huge. Fiction, the cover is huge. Whether
That's
that's,
true.
so it could be, the title, Gone Girl, that's a great one. But it
Yeah.
could also be the cover. Is it mysterious, engaging?
Yeah. So do people, this is this, do you help with, because I feel like audiobooks are a big deal.
Yeah,
Do you help with audiobooks?
we do. We do.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So that's,
You just give somebody, so do you guys read them or you let them read them or come to a studio or what do you do? How do you do that?
it depends, right? So we use an exchange of readers, or I guess like voiceover artists,
Okay.
who are interested in doing these, right? So we kind of partner, we collaborate, we send like test samples to the author, and they can choose their voiceover talent. Or if they want to do their own, we can set them up with the proper equipment, the process, and they can read it on their own. Some people like to read it on their own because they know that they're if they have a very tight user base or tight following, who knows them on a personal level, it might just be more authentic coming directly from them. But if not, there's an exchange of hundreds or even thousands of voiceover artists who are looking for work.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I'd be curious about like voiceover stuff, like reading an audiobook. I think that'd be crazy, man. Because like that's how so I do. I'm a little weird. I buy the physical copy and the audio book.
Oh,
I do both. I do both because I'll listen to it in the car, but then I'll be like, oh, dude, I want to remember that, and I'll go into my notes on like my phone or something, and be like, we're in chapter 5, and then I'll go back to my book and reread it and like mark it up and stuff.
Oh, nice. That's that's good.
Yeah, I do both. Plus, I like it. Like you can see some of the books right up here, but you can also I have shelves of them downstairs, but because I like to like read physical stuff as well,
right?
But I'll mostly listen to it, and that was just curious for me because like it's like audiobooks, physical books, ebooks. Those are big.
Yeah, they are.
Because you can give those away, right?
Yeah. And I mean, they're cheaper because obviously you don't have to produce them. You don't have to print. But as you see, for anyone who's watching and not listening, if you can see past the dark screen, I got my own little book
I like those books, dude.
Yeah. So, I mean, I want a bookshelf that covers the whole wall. But in due time, that will certainly happen. But yeah, I'm big on physical books. I just like holding that physical book in my hand. Plus, I mean, my as a writer, as a business person, my whole day is spent staring at a screen. So when I get to take a break, I like the physical pages. So
yeah. So let me ask you this. We were talking about finance. We're talking, because you have the app. We're talking about a few other things. I'm curious, what's the biggest lesson you had to unlearn in your journey of like finance or just business in general? Like what's the biggest lesson you had to unlearn?
Limitations.
Okay.
And that's a simple one. Again, like I'll go and this is no offense to my parents or any of our parents. It was a different age back then, right? So for anyone that's in their 50s and 60s, your parents were coming off of the Great Depression, right? So nobody could get a job. So landing a job with a pension or benefits, that was the goal, right? And most of our parents tried to instill that in us, and my parents too. It was, what kind of job are you going to get? What kind of education? What kind of job? What company are you going to get into? And as we see now, like the whole landscape is changing, and just to get out of that kind of limiting mindset of what job am I going to have, and into like just what can I do for a living? What kind of impact can I make? Yeah, that was critical. And once, for anybody listening, if you still have, obviously, if you're listening to the Thinking Project, you're probably you're beyond that limitation. But just getting past that first hurdle is so important and so critical. And for me, it was game changing.
Yeah, that's a great point that you bring up, especially about like limitations, because a lot of us put like even almost like subliminal limitations on what we can think, like, I can't do that, or even like out of like honor.
Right.
Some of us would do something like, I can't do that because my parents could have never done that. And there's some, like, I grew up in the Midwest, and there is like this false sense of like honor to your past.
Right.
That like, nope, we've always been farmers. We'll always be farmers. And by the way, again, I'm going to step back and say there's nothing wrong with that. The Midwest is the backbone of America.
Right.
But I just knew some of my friends didn't want to do that, but they were bound by this false sense of like honor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally agree. And there are people that I've written for too, that it's the same thing. And you see that especially when it comes to people whose parents are in the medical field or lawyers, and that's huge, because that for decades, that has just been like, you've made it, right? Like you are going to be financially secure. But and when they go off and just take risks and do the entrepreneurial thing, it kind of sends parents into a little bit of a frenzy.
Yeah, for sure. So you've written a lot of books for these entrepreneurs. You've done a lot of work with these people. you've built your app. So instead of asking you what's the biggest lesson you had to unlearn, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned from writing books for these entrepreneurs and starting your own companies?
All right, so this can be a mixture for Green Grasp and for Visionary Literary. Is that when okay, so creative financing, right? So
Yeah,
again, when that limiting mindset, you told me not to go to the what I had to unlearn, but
that's fine. Go ahead, man. Do what you
yeah,
got to do.
it was just it's forever. The mainstream concept is if I need money, I go to a bank, I plead with them, can I please have some money and pay you interest for it? And when they say no, that's your final option. There are so many different ways just to get money, to start something new, to get an app going or a business going. And it doesn't have to be one of the most important lessons that I feel that I messed up on at the beginning is don't start a company and quit your job and then think that you're going to make the same amount of money or even livable money, right? Like start with it as a side hustle, right? Like, and that's something that became pretty clear to me. But start as a side hustle and then move it. But just the idea of, the bank is not your only option for money. There are so many creative ways of between equity or venture capital, angel investors, there are,
and for your business. Yeah.
For your business. But it's again, going back that limiting mindset.
Yeah, man. Well, it's true. And I like what you said about the side hustle. I think people try to kill themselves. Like I'm supposed to have this, again, I wrote something the other day that was like, millionaires have their 7 streams of income, but what they don't, but what the financial guru doesn't tell you after that is he's also got like 7 different teams of like people. He's got depth, man. You know what I mean? He's got a bench that helps him do that. For you and me, it's side hustles are great, and you just do what you can and you work with what you got. And there's a list of side hustles that I think are great for people to do every day. And they're just, and so I really like that part. And you got to be really careful about how you move that, be really methodical about how you go through that in your, in your experience with working with this app. Besides teaching people like the finance part of it. I mean, is there anything else planned for the app? Is there anything else you're planning on doing with that, like to grow it or anything?
Yeah, absolutely. So we as of right now, the app, when it first releases, is going to be a free app, right? We want to make sure that it's free. There are no ads. We're not trying to bombard people with, I mean, my kids play on their tablets all the time and it's ads every 10 seconds, but we just want, we just want to help, right? But what we're doing now is I'm starting to talk with partners that we can have a plus version of the app that we can reach out to those financial gurus, but obviously they'll be
but like real ones.
Yeah,
like real because
real
I'm not mad about guru.
Yeah.
I'm mad about the fake ones who don't like, dude, you can't teach people that. You got to teach people the right stuff. Yeah. I got you.
Yeah. So there's that. And then we also, I mean, obviously, as I said before, high school, college, if you don't know about finance and if you don't know that you have to go out on your own and take those financial courses, learn about personal finance, you're going to find yourself in your early 20s struggling with finance like so many of us do. And then you think that the only way out is to work more hours, get a raise at your job. So we want to teach like the ideas of passive income and those other concepts. And we'd like to push that into schools. So my main goal, what I'm really hoping to do is to try to work with the education department or just like small little school districts, at least in the area, to run like a beta test to see if we can help either at the middle school level or the high school level, just start getting these concepts into the minds of children at a young age.
Yeah. And that's really important because when you get out of school, you can't, it's a minefield, man. You get caught up with credit cards. You get caught up with, bank loans and car loans and house loans. Like, how do you do this stuff?
Right.
It's all really confusing and can be really scary. And so
Right. And
it's just crazy.
So many of us, it's just like learn by doing. It's trial and error. And that's, I mean, that can, as we see, like anyone who has a bad credit score will tell you that you can tank your credit score in 1 month, and then it takes you like 7 years to get it back up. Right. So it's like, when you do this trial by fire, learn by doing, you dig yourself into a hole so quickly, and then it takes forever to get out. And it's so mentally exhausting. I know the feeling. I had that car repossessed, right? Like, I had the business go under, and you dig the hole, and then you're trying to climb on this soft dirt, and it just keeps it keeps collapsing on you, and it's so tough to get out.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand that.
Yeah.
And it's when people just don't, you don't know what you don't know. And so that's really cool that you have an app that's going to start helping people at least get the basics down, at least start, learning because the more that you learn, the more that you start to dig into these things. Like, it really is like the law of attraction. Like, once you really start wanting to learn about something, you're like, oh wow, I didn't know this person existed. I didn't know that person existed.
Right.
I really like this guy. And there's so many people to learn from that it's really beautiful that you can kind of curate your own kind of like teachers in real life. Like, my Twitter feed is very intentional of like who I follow, because I want to it's almost like I get to pick my professors.
Yeah.
I get to pick my feed.
That's a very good way to think about it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always learning, man. I'm always trying to learn from people who are smarter than me. I don't want to be that, that guy. You have to have someone you're teaching. You have to have someone on your same level that you can bounce ideas off of. And then you got to have people who you learn from. And so you can kind of curate all that and make that all possible. And that's great, man. So I'm really glad that we were able to connect. I'm really glad that we were able to do this interview.
Absolutely.
So how can people find, keep up to date with everything that's going on, get updates for when the app's ready to roll? How do they find you?
So to find me, I'm not really that active on social media. You can on Twitter, John JOHN _Feldman FELDMAN _.
Yeah.
You might find me posting on there once a month, but that's my news source. So I love to go early in the morning. I wake up, I go on Twitter on the news and just look and see, just kind of what's going on in the world. And then I'm fairly active on LinkedIn as well.
Cool.
And then for the app, if you go to greengrasp.tech, so it's green, GREEN, grasp, GRASP.tech. You there at the bottom of that website, you can sign up for the newsletter, and we'll push out all the updates as soon as it's ready. We're going to be super excited, and we'll push that out. Again, hopefully that works out well for at least some of the people that go on there. And then for Visionary Literary, it's visionaryliterary.com if you want to go check it out. One major thing that we want to do with Visionary as we kind of get the ball rolling is we have a referral program. So I have, being in the publishing and writing industry for so long, there have been, every client that I've worked with has told me during the first 5 minutes of a conversation that they have been told by so many people they need to write a book. So if you're one of those people that knows someone and you tell them you really need to write a book, we have a referral program that ranges between $1,000 and $2,000 for anyone who refers someone and who signs on and who writes a book for us. The reason for that is because there are so many people who could write a book and it could be so impactful, but they're so nervous. They don't want to, they have imposter syndrome.
Yeah. Well, that's a big thing for a book.
Yeah. But we want to help push those people just to say, even if your book only helps one person, think about what you can do with that one person's life, like how you can change it.
Yeah.
So, so many books have changed my life. For sure. I want more.
Yeah, absolutely. And how long does it take to usually write a book like that?
So it depends. If you write it yourself and we just publish it and help you to edit and get through that whole process, it's roughly 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
For full service, from concept all the way to publication and marketing, 9 to 12 months is about the typical process.
That makes sense. It takes a while to write a book.
It does, yeah.
And
we have to
rewrite
make
it,
sure-
and this isn't the idea that I had. And
Right.
okay, cool, man.
And that's cover design, marketing. I mean, that's everything.
Marketing.
From A
That's
to Z.
crazy, man. So do you just have? I mean, how does marketing like that work for books? I've always heard like the easiest part is writing the book. The hardest part is marketing the book.
Right.
You
So
know
it depends. Yeah, a lot of people. If you're writing a nonfiction book, you have a lot of knowledge. People follow you already, so you have that following. But for the most part, too, it's just helping with. Again, the people that come to us, our clients are busy. They hire, like you said, they have teams in every one of these businesses that they own. So we're just their team. We're their marketing team. So we'll help with the things they don't want to do, those social media posts, virtual blog tours, setting them up with podcast interviews, things like that. We'll kind of be there to help them. We'll be their beacon of light.
All right, cool, man. Well, that's great, dude. Well, I again appreciate your time. Loved our conversation, and thank you so much for being here.
Good, Dalton. Thank you so much for having me. I love the show. Love everything you're doing. Episode 142. Keep going, man. I'm really excited to keep listening.
Thank you.
All right, man. Take care.